Okay, I think I found something for a little urban plein air adventure, and I'm probably going to bite off more than I can chew, but I'll give it a shot. Let's take a look. Okay, here's what I'm looking at. Right straight ahead with the stairs and that green door. Do a couple loading doors, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, I'm just going to whip in a typical value sketch to get the shadows nailed. I'm just going to use a flat Rosemary Company long flat size 8 and a size 6 flat from Princeton Company, and try to get a quick little structural sketch going on, so then I can apply color, because it's early morning, 8 a.m., so light should change fast. Okay, I got some bones in of the composition. It didn't take very long. Now I'm going to just make sure there's no wonky lines. I'm going to measure with my brush to the edges of the panel, and do that before I continue with any more structural elements, because if I don't check that now and it shows up later, it's going to be very difficult to alter. So let me do that and get back to you. Okay, to start the color sketch going, I'm just using titanium white, ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, and yellow ochre. Kind of keep it very kind of muted and earthy, and then I can interject the rest of my colors. We'll go over that later. Just want to get some base tones going on, especially yellow ochre is going to be useful for the loading dock doors that you see over there. So let's get started. When I get this in here, this is when I'll check for straightness of lines before I continue with each segment of the painting, because of course it's architectural, so it needs to make sense. Okay, everything's progressing as I thought it would. I'm actually using some raw umber too with the ultramarine blue and burnt sienna and yellow ochre. Mid-tone in here. Judge. Now remember, I'm in the sun, so I don't want to keep going too dark with my shadow. But I am going to do a little bit, especially as it gets up under the awning. The awning is projecting at an angle towards us, so there is going to be some darker element of it up right where it meets the white. Two reasons: because it's angling back in shadow, and also where the two lines meet as our eyes are trying to make sense of it, it's going to appear a little darker there. A little more sienna. There's my mixture I'm mixing. There's a lot of nuances in the ribbing of the siding of this building, and I'll decide once I get these tones in for the shadows and such how much detail I want to put in terms of super scientific about it, but I do want enough facts to give the uniqueness of my particular subject I'm choosing to paint. So finding that balance of what to leave in and what to leave out. Just a little too cartoony for me. I'm going to kill it down with the little sienna. Test under it. It's not much difference, but it is a little darker. I'd rather have it a little darker and be able to lighten it. So let's commit to a little more pile here. Alright, here we go. Saving the lines for the yellow stripes so I don't sully the paint too much. Let's commit. I'm going to commit this bottom. I'm just building a baseline to measure from. Okay, now do the brush measuring. You can be as exacting as you want, but nice and quiet here today. Love it. Now, of course, the detail in the railing and everything is going to be difficult to do, but we'll do the best we can. I'll save that for last. Build a shadow now. I want some deep dark. Adding ultramarine blue, raw umber, some sienna. A little more blue into the lightening it just a bit. Let's see what we get, because it's pretty black, so to speak. First off, I'm going to reiterate some shadows here. This would be a good testing ground to test the darkness. I like that a lot. And once I get into some smaller flats, I can clean up and get some really sharp lines. This little older flat that I'm using, so it doesn't hold a super sharp edge, but it's good enough for blocking in. So I save my older brushes for that blocking in phase. That can be a little rough on a brush. And you want to pay attention when you have any other angular shadows that they match, because the lighting is, I mean, if it was way out, it might be a slightly different angle, but not much. So you don't want to have one angle this way, one that way. It's a little too, depends on perspective, but in this case, pretty much straight on. Now, something to pay attention to is these lines for the shadow, because there's indentations as things project out. That's why you have different shadow lines. This is sticking out further than the door and so on. So with the shadow on the door, on all the doors at the same plane, you need to be very careful to make these lines the same. Going back up here, testing. Dirty it down a little more, adding some raw umber. Test next to. Yeah, I like that better. This is when I can clean up lines even more. Pushing that yellow in saturation a bit, because don't forget I'm in bright sunlight. I'm anticipating going in the house and it being the correct look I want. Okay, I just mixed up a little bit of a yellow ochre pretty strong. I'm going to work on painting the base tones of the stripes, the yellow stripes, and get back to you because I'm going to be using my maul stick. Okay, a little important thing I wanted to go over here for a little detail for your own use. When I was painting the yellow stripes, let me tell you. So I have this nice Robert Simmons sapphire brush, small, flat, very size 1. Perfect width. I mean, you can use any small brush, but this worked great. And when I applied the paint, I mixed up enough paint, and then holding my brush back, not too much towards the front like that, but back, and just dragged it almost at a 45-degree angle. And as the paint came off and I needed more paint, I picked up more, came back, and then dragged again and let it break a little bit. You can see it really facilitates peeling paint off the pavement. And if you want to fill in more, you can fill in more, but if you filled it in too much from the get-go, then you got problems. Then if you want this effect, you'd have to wipe out and start over. I might even, actually, it's a similar kind of yellow tone, just a little different saturation. I'm actually going to umber it up quite a bit. I think it needs to have some difference, and that's going to affect potentially the color of the shadow I've already created on the wall, but I can always adjust that. I just want to test out the idea. Let me get an idea here. Might even experiment with just burnt sienna and white. Very light tone. Kind of liking that. I'm going to test out over in this area the mixture using sienna and decide which one I want to use. And that's okay. They're close. They're going to be close enough in value. If you change one or the other, you know, it's easy enough to do. Don't worry about it. But all right, let's get it in here. I'm thinking I like this sienna because it has a little more liveliness to the paint color. Clean up over here. Step back, looks right. Then I'll fix that in a moment. Shadow over here. And I can clean up this. It's already got some light tone on there, so nice. Move over to this one. And there's some variation in the bumper. Some are beat up more than others, but we get the idea. Okay, I've just been about for the last, I don't know, 15 minutes. I've been putting the icing on the cake, so to speak, with some small brush detail, working on this area in here. Now I'm working on the stairs right here, catching some details. And of course it's important not to rely too much on what's going on now, because about an hour has passed, a little over an hour, so you don't want to make mistakes and start chasing in light. So I'm going to work some more on the stairs, get that going. Now I'm just intensifying some shadows that have sunken in a little bit and pulling those out to give it a little more dimension. And but it's shaping up pretty good. The railing I'll probably have to do when I get home. I'll suggest some of it now for shape, but the yellow paint over what's already there isn't going to work too well. Here's what it's looking like. And I'm really pretty happy with it. And what you can do when you're kind of out of time, like I'm going to wrap it up here, is I put in just a little bits of information, and that's a corrugated metal roof, and to show what kind of information is there. Even though I didn't finish on the other side, I know what's going on stepping away from when I get home. And of course I took a photo in the beginning too, so between the two that should help. Still will need some work, but I'm liking the bones of it. A very complicated subject to get all this information in, but I really like how I got the yellow stripes in there. And I'll do more of an analysis when I'm packed up and at home, and it's going to be interesting to see it inside. I think there might be a few straightening of lines that need to happen, but we'll check all that out later. Woo! Was that exhausting? A lot of fun though. Man, I think that's the longest I've spent on the plein air painting. It's a little over 2 hours, maybe 2 hours, 10 minutes. What a lot of information to put in. But, you know, if you do that enough, you'll find out more efficient steps to take as you're painting different elements. Each subject is going to present its own challenges, but overall I'm pretty happy with it. And like I mentioned, we'll be doing a little analysis when I get home away from the subject. So until then, I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, here's some at-home analysis here. This is, of course, I'm in the shade now, not in bright sunlight, and I am liking this piece a lot. I think I did a good job of judging the lights and darks in bright sunlight. It's a good test to do that. Even if I wanted to use an umbrella, like I said, I was not able to because the sun was behind me. And towards the end, there was a lot of the detail that you didn't get to see me paint because I had to use my maul stick. So sorry about that, but really happy with this piece. And there's a few things I'll check for straightness, but overall, can't complain. And this is especially going to need a lot of work trying to overlay yellowish. It's like a bright caution yellow paint on the stair rails. So once this dries, I'll overlay some to get that opaqueness that I needed in certain spots. And also, I didn't really have, I think I'm going to whip out a cad yellow medium with some white. When I do that, I was using a lemon yellow, some yellow ochre. And the only other colors I introduced from the original ones I mentioned were a little bit of cad red, of course, for the cad red light for the signage there. And these are actually little signs. I'll dab in some suggesting lettering. Not much because it's very small, but this is also nice because the original siding of the building is similar to this yellow but pale, and I just felt it needed to be a different color to have some variety. So again, artistic license. And I just quickly put in a base coat for the pavement. I like the tone value of that, so, and how it's kind of broken up. Adds a little variety without having to paint the variety. And once this dries up too, I'll scumble in some more kind of flecked paint and just wear and tear that you get in these urban environments. Okay everybody, this concludes this plein air urban adventure. I had a lot of fun doing this one. Like I mentioned before, very long time. I was painting 2 hours 10 minutes, the most I think I've ever spent. And but kind of needed to do that for certain details in a piece while I was on site. And I hope you enjoyed the video. If you're new to the channel, I invite you to subscribe, and I'm glad you watched. Check out my other ones, you'll enjoy those also. For everyone else, thank you for continuing to watch the videos and supporting my channel. Until next time, bye.